Hey there, dancers. It is Brittany here. I have been hearing a lot of just concerns from dancers about wanting to make sure that they are stretching every day because they don't want to lose any of their flexibility or their range of motion when they get back to performing. And I love that you guys are concerned about wanting to keep your flexibility. But here's the thing that I see happening a lot of times with dancers that I've been talking to in the last week. We are focusing on possibly the wrong areas of stretching that could be causing potential injuries and little tears in our muscles that we're not really aware of because we're not moving so much. And then it's kind of creating this after effect of achy paininess. And one of the areas that I see dancers are working a lot to gain their flexibility, it's in a misconception that's very common in the dance world, is that we think we have to stretch our hamstrings, which are these guys located at the back of our legs, and they have to do a lot of work for us, and they're usually often in dancers overstretched and underworked, and are lacking their strength that they need to help you with all the movements that you're trying to work on anyway. So the big areas that we want to focus on then, right? I'm sure you're asking the question, well, if that feels like what's limiting me and that's not the issue, what should I be stretching? Perfect question. I want to share some information for you about what you can work on during the next week or two to help make sure that you're increasing and supporting your range of motion and flexibility instead of potentially injuring yourself. And the two places that I see that dancers need the most range of motion are their hips, right? We have a lot of tightness in other areas in our hips that could be limiting the skills that we are trying to work on, and especially our quads. They're usually one of the most overworked areas in dancers that tend to take on a lot of tension, and now is the perfect time for you to work on giving them some gradual and consistent release because they're not getting put through, hopefully, as much of the effort as they usually have to go through during your performance season, which I know would usually be this time of year. Also, this is a super big side note, but if you are a soloist and you are working on a solo this year and you missed out on a chance to get to perform and get feedback to help you develop your performance abilities, you are not alone, and I am here for you. You guys can send your solo videos right to my email address, bcartistry.dance@gmail.com, and I am offering dancers free feedback that's going to tell you, I'm going to pinpoint, I'm going to freeze the video, I'm going to use my little mouse to show you exactly what areas you can work on and give you some tips on how you can develop that to make your next time on stage, your next performance, an even better one than you could have anticipated having been in your sheltered program for the past few weeks. So with that being said, I want to get moving a little bit. So I want to start getting your hips to warm up, and then we're going to work on finding ways that we can use dynamic and some static stretches to open some of those places to help you with things like your splits, like your tilts, all those awesome skills that I know that all young dancers are working for right now. So the first thing I want you to do is find your way into a lunge. Now, mind you, if you are coming out of, I actually just had a client session doing video call, so I'm a little warm. I've been moving my body around. If you are just picking yourself up off the couch, and that's totally fine, I understand the weather is not very nice out right now. If you are just starting to move for the first time today, I encourage you to do something else first. Maybe some jumping jacks. Maybe you do a little jog around the house. Do something to get your body moving so that you're warm before you head into these stretches. When you put tension and you try to work elasticity in muscles when they're not warm, you're just opening yourself up to injury. So make sure you do something prior to this to warm yourself up so that your hips and your muscles are happy when you're moving around and you're stretching, okay? So you're gonna come into a nice long lunge first. And I know I'm trying to get myself right in view so you can see me. You're going to come to a lunge. You're going to try to keep your back nice and long. I'm nice and square. And I'm just going to hold here for 10 seconds. And I want you to activate your right leg, the leg that you have in front of you. So you're going to think about really pushing that foot into the ground. Still with me? Take a couple breaths here. You're going to start to feel some heat building in your seat. Maybe getting a little bit of stretching happening in the front of your left thigh. Then you're going to lower that back knee down. Untuck your toes, one hand at a time is coming to the top of your thigh. And what happens to a lot of us here, friends, is that we tend to do this, right? We tend to arch into our back a lot. I want you to keep your belly button lifted, keep your alignment in your seat and your spine, and just take a few more breaths here. Then we're going to slowly lift up, transitioning our weight back onto our back knees. It's going to be a little balance test for you too. You're going to try to tuck your seat under you here. I'm going to press my tailbones forward, try to get a little more length in my hip flexor here, right? So instead of being in my neutral position, I'm tucking my seat underneath me, lifting from my belly. Taking a couple of breaths here. Getting a nice big stretch. So what we're doing in this action is we're bringing our hip bone higher, right? Instead of it being here, we're pulling our hip bone up and higher, so we're creating space for a little more room for that hip flexor and even the top of our quad to stretch. And then I'm going to make my way back into my nice big lunge, and I'm going to twist myself towards you. So my hips are trying to stay pretty squared, but my upper body's trying to open towards you. And if you need to take your hips with you a little bit, totally fine, but I'm trying to get a little more opening through the front of my hip here. And I'm gonna gently shift out. I'm gonna turn myself around so that you can see me on the other side. I'll meet you over there. Moving nice and slow, and like I said, if you haven't moved around today a lot, you immediately will start to feel that this doesn't feel comfortable to be in this type of stretch if you are not warmed up first. So please make sure that you're doing something to warm up your hips and your belly. Just coming into our lunge, lifting that back knee, trying to keep myself nice and long. So we love to drop our hips here. Try to keep your hips almost the height of your front knee. Staying nice and long, back is lengthened, taking some breaths. Really pressing my front foot into the floor, so I'm utilizing the muscles in my seat and my legs. And then I'm going to drop my back knee down, untuck my toes, hands coming up to my thigh, and again, I'm lifting my belly away from my thigh, not trying to take away space there, but create space there. Taking a few breaths in, back is long, shoulders are pressing down. And then I'm going to slowly shift my way back, tucking my pelvis underneath me, right? This hip bone is trying to come up towards my chest. Seat is coming under and forward, and I'm making some space in the front of my right hip. Slowly shifting my way back, and I'm going to twist right towards you. And on this side for me, I know my right side tends to get a little bit tighter, so I'm starting to feel a nice big stretch, maybe even a little bit into the inner thigh, getting into those adductors. And slowly, shifting my way out of that. So now from here, now that we got into a couple different areas in the front and the back of our seat, we're going to try to get into the sides of our seat. So I'm going to come right up into just a little baby demi-plie in second position. I'm just going to shift from side to side. Focusing here on using my rotation, making sure that my, going off balance, my knees are pressing away from you. Getting my seat to stay underneath me, and then I'm going to send myself, trying to keep myself right in this place with my thighs. I'm going to send my hands down to the floor, send my seat high, so I'm stretching a lot. I'm feeling on the inside of my left thigh right now, but I'm also working my right side of my seat. And then I'm going to lift and shift to the other direction. Whip. I'm sure you guys are probably feeling things right now too. And you can take a second to shift back and forth a few times, but this is a good little pattern to get yourself moving through so that you are starting to get those hips to open. You're starting to get some things to work in your seat. If you are not really aware of it, take a second and think about, what have you been doing the past couple of days? More than normal, right? You're probably doing a lot more sitting than you normally are, and that's going to take away space from your hip flexors, and it's likely to make them tight, and it's going to discourage your range of motion in being able to get those skills like your splits and your leg extensions and your side tilts. So think about a little bit what you're doing, how can you get your body warm, stay active, and start working through some of these exercises as a little program to do maybe every other day of the week, so that you don't lose any of your abilities and you support yourself to be ready to dance and for your next performance when you get back in the studio. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I will check you guys out on the next video. Bye.